Hey, thanks for checking out my channel. If this is your first time here, and if you're returning and you've decided that this is what you want more of, I love you. And if you're new, think about subscribing. I really want to get to 100 by the end of the year. I know that's just like a personal goal. It's not really your problem, but you could help me get there. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and this is my review of A Jazz Man's Blues. I'm a blind film critic, so I watched this on Netflix with audio description. And shout out to Sri Gordon, who does the audio description, and Liz Gutman, who wrote the audio description for Jazz Man's Blues. We'll talk about that in a minute. I do have a thought, so we'll come back around to that. So this is a Tyler Perry movie, through and through. Written, produced, and directed by Tyler Perry. I guess his deal with BET Plus is to only give them TV shows, and he's going to give his movies to Netflix, because this is not the first Tyler Perry film to hit Netflix. So I normally do not like Tyler Perry films. I don't think he's really ever wowed me as a director. I fully have embraced the fact that at some point he will win that Gene Holt Humanitarian Award, and he'll become an honorary Oscar nominee because of all of the stuff that he keeps doing. I would say within 10 years, he's easily within, he'll get it. But I don't think he'll get it any other way. His films always have something that keeps them from greatness. Here, it's really long, and it's melodramatic, and it feels like it has a lot of acts, and it feels like, did you need all of that in the story? And it's kind of a story that winds around a lot. It feels like a track that's on a figure eight, and it just keeps passing the the junction, the loop, the middle of the loop. And you're like, okay, we could be coming back around, and we're not. Okay. It's structured very weird. So we open the film with an old lady watching TV. There's a guy on TV who is ranting about affirmative action, and he's, I guess, running for office or something. And we get like a glimpse of it. He's like, I'm going to shut down affirmative action. I'm like, okay. Thanks, Tyler. I figured you'd work something in at the beginning, but anyway, so the woman walks into this guy's office, and she's got like this stack of letters. I don't even know who this woman is. Like, I never see her again. We never hear from her again. She walks in, and she's got the stack of letters. And like, by the end of the film, you'll be like, who was that woman, and why did she have the stack of letters? How did that come to be? At least from my perspective as a blind person, I feel like it never tied that in to me. I was never like, oh, it's that character from the story, because almost the entire movie is told in flashback. There's about 3 to 4 minutes at the beginning of the film, and about 3 to 4 minutes at the end of the film that are not. I think there's like one time where it like cuts back for 5 seconds and like just reminds you that there's still a guy that's actually just reading these letters in present day. But she drops off these letters for him to investigate a murder that happened 40 years ago. Of course, the whole thing is sort of sketchy, because I think by him wanting to eliminate affirmative action, we're supposed to assume that he's potentially racist, even though I think he also proclaimed something about not being racist. He just wants to end affirmative action. Okay, whatever. But he gets bestowed these letters, which he almost doesn't read. He almost throws them away, but then he does start reading them. And then we get this film, which asked me a lot of questions all the time. There was a scene, I don't know how to describe this film. So ultimately, it's a love story that ends tragically. Wrapped in it is music. Wrapped in it is a story about the Deep South in the 30s. Wrapped in that is a tumultuous home life for our main character, played by Josh Boone. And he he starts off the film with like people with suggesting that he's like simple-minded or something, and there's this girl that he likes, but her father like yells at him in this completely weird way, just so aggressively over dramatic for this film. He's such a cartoonish character, just way over the top, but the film itself just kind of always has a weird balance to it. There's a casual rape just kind of in the middle of the film, and not even in the middle of the beginning of the film, in the middle of Act 1. It just, in the narration, it's like, he's watching her. Bayou, I think it's his name. Bayou watches this girl get raped and just never says anything about it. But there were questions that were posed, like the paper plane that comes through the window, and then he goes outside and he's chasing her, and she's wondering, like, what's up? Like, I sent you, there was writing on the paper plane, and she's like, oh, you can't read. But it never really answers the question as to how he learned to read and write all of these letters. It just, unless I missed something, it presented him as illiterate, but then at the same time, he's doing a great job of writing these letters. So I don't understand the dynamic there. I also had a really hard time picking up on race through the audio description, just simply because when we use terms like light-skinned, I don't always know that means white. It could just mean a light-skinned black person. You know what I'm saying? Like on the spectrum of the scale. It felt weird to not just come right out and say which characters were white. Sometimes you find out later on through the story, through characters talking about another character, that somebody is white, but a lot of times they were just described kind of on the hue of their skin, which at first threw me for a loop because I didn't realize that there was any sort of difference between these two, our two main characters. I didn't pick up on that. And then just because of how they were presented, remember, I'm blind. So for those of you who are sitting there going, I don't understand, how did he not pick up on this? This was just me from audio description. Like, I didn't pick up on it from that angle. I didn't get that was what it was with the help of the audio description. Part of me had a question in my mind at some point about, is this like Passing that we just had last year, where the two black actresses were both so light-skinned that they were attempting to pass as white females, and then that was the whole plot of the film. And I wondered if there was an angle of that in this too. I didn't quite get that, but I think this is more of I think I landed on interracial relationship, and the hate, obviously, of that coming about in the time period in which this film exists. So I followed the film. I think the film has a lot of beats and goes on for a while, and sometimes people, they just suddenly make character choices and character decisions. Bayou's dad is aggressively angry, and then suddenly his brother is aggressively angry. but Bayou doesn't seem to inherit the same sort of level of rage. But then later on, you see his mom is just aggressively pissed off all the time. So there's a lot of people who just get angry, and maybe they're just angry because of their surroundings and their situation, but they don't need to be angry to each other. They're all kind of there to support each other. There's a lot of music in here, and some of it is gorgeous and beautiful and well done. Uh, there's a lot of it that also feels incredibly optimistic considering what it's underlaying. So it feels like it's scored for like a fantasy film. Um, and it's really sort of like an uplifting score. But there's a lot about this. It's not necessarily an uplifting film, but it's really trying to highlight this stuff around it. Like, the rape kind of happens at a moment in the film where everything is kind of working out. So the music around it is all kind of this upbeat, you know, hopeful music. That scene is very much not. So, it, some of it, it just didn't line up for me. A lot of the choices, the brother Bayou at first really doesn't have much of a connection to music. He doesn't have a connection to music until he needs a connection to music for the story to be able to move forward. We get Ryan Eggold in here, as Ira, who is Jewish and reminds us that Jews are not having a fun time right now over in his home country, and he's over here and he's trying to make his own life and be a manager for these black musicians to get them into clubs. And it has a lot of themes going on that wander all the way around this story about this couple that had a fling, had an affair. They're in love, but they can't be together, type of thing. And the film ends very awkwardly, and I don't want to disrespect what happens, but he just kind of like walks into it. I mean, is a lot of really odd choices in a film that runs really long, would be what I would say. I think there are some good performances here. I think they come and go. I think people have scenes where they're really good. And then they have other scenes where Tyler's direction was asking something else of them, or he was trying to get something else, and it just becomes a little bit too melodramatic. I think he's directed too many episodes of his TV shows to be able to get that cinematic nature out of his cast. I notice he doesn't really have a whole lot of recognizable talent in here. This is a lot of fresh faces. These are a lot of fresh faces. He couldn't rope anybody in, and I think that could have really helped having a lot of seasoned performers in this. And it's not there. It's a interesting story at times. It's a hard story at times. It's not a bad film. There's so many choices that I don't know that I would have made. But then again, I could say that about a lot of Tyler Perry films. So I appreciate the fact that Medea is not in this, because I think Tyler Perry is a much better director when he's not trying to direct himself in drag and then also try to put thematic, serious material around that. But this is an odd film. It's an odd film. It kind of just ends at the end of it too. It explains the why, but it does it so quickly that you're just kind of like, well, there isn't really a finish to it. like, he's asked to investigate the murder, but he doesn't really investigate the murder. He just kind of, I guess, becomes a better person or learns something about life, history, himself. He has an awakening. I don't know. It's very, this is this is an odd film. I didn't think I was going to be analyzing it this much. Usually when I click on a Tyler Perry movie, I'm ready for something else, but this had me all over the place. It runs about 2 hours and 8 minutes, I believe, so I easily would have said this needs to be shorter. It meanders. It's always adding in like a new layer that it doesn't need. It's unfocused as a storyline, and it just it can't stay on topic. It's constantly driving somewhere else to do to cover another part of the story. He's trying to do a lot here. And it's possible this could have worked more as a series if that's what he wanted to do. If he wanted to tell this story in a broad nature, make a series out of it. But as it is, it just didn't work for me on a lot of levels. So, with that being said, yeah, like I said, I'm not 100% sure that the narration helped me understand the film the way that I needed to understand it. Moving forward, I kind of was lost a little bit, which is unusual for me because I love Liz Gutman and I love Sri Gordon, but I didn't love this narration. I couldn't pick up on what I needed to. Just to be frank, when it's a Tyler Perry movie, most of us just assume the cast is predominantly black. I have yet to see Tyler Perry direct a film where the cast is predominantly white. So it's a lot easier to just point out and say, hey, this character is white, instead of light-skinned, or just trying to describe the color of somebody's hair and just being like kind of beating around the bush about it. Because I don't necessarily assume that we're gonna have a white character in every, that many white characters in these roles. Anyway, it's damn. It's a very weird review. I've had a lot of thoughts about this film. I watched it yesterday, so I've just been sitting in this film, not really knowing what to say about it. It's not bad. It's not bad, and I think there's a lot to be had out of this. So, it's not the worst Tyler Perry film. I think it just needed a different pass. Just somebody in the editing room to just go along with Tyler and be like, I don't know if all of this works. Do we need this scene? Can we cut this scene? Can we change this around? And maybe I would have taken a different pass at the audio description. So I think there's a really good film here. I just think it needed another rewrite and then maybe some editing. But very interesting choice for Tyler Perry. So that's it for me. I'm going to go ahead and grade it. I'm going to give a Jazzman's Blues a C. It's right in the middle for me. Usually when I give a film a grade of C, I am not really saying watch it or don't watch it. That's kind of my right in the middle. C is average. C, that's what it's always meant. This is average. So I've seen a lot worse, and I've seen a lot better. So give it a... If you like Tyler Perry films, you might love this. If you don't like Tyler Perry films, I don't know. It's not his worst, so just decide whether or not you feel like the film is for you. That's it. That's all I got. So, like I said, please subscribe. Help me get to 100. And you can check out my website, macthemovieguy.com, for more reviews. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org, which will let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it, and the adna.org, which will let you know what Sri Gordon has narrated, like what other films. So anyway, That's it for me today. I gotta go review something else, and I will see you on the other side.